Hey everyone, I'm George and I'm back with a new video. This is my top 5 favorite things about Dragon Ball Super. Growing up, I was a huge fan of Dragon Ball Z. If you haven't seen that series, you definitely want to check it out. And then I also really enjoyed Dragon Ball GT, which came after Dragon Ball Z, but after that there wasn't anything. So I'm a huge fan of Dragon Ball Z. I've been watching it since I was a kid. Me and my siblings would rush home so we could catch the new episode of Dragon Ball Z. I don't know if you remember Toonami, but the episodes would repeat on Toonami, so once you got to a certain point in the Namek saga, it would restart all over again back to the Saiyan saga. And so we did that for a few years. Eventually Toonami got the newer episodes and we were able to watch the Android saga, the Boo saga. I remember having to sit through the Garlic Jr. saga, but I just remember really loving Dragon Ball Z. I remember it being a huge thing. The PlayStation 2 games, the GameCube games, Dragon Ball Z was huge, and Dragon Ball has come back in a big way. After Dragon Ball GT, which followed Dragon Ball Z, a lot of people thought that was going to be the end of the Dragon Ball series. Well, we actually got Dragon Ball Super. For those of you who aren't aware, Dragon Ball Super is a phenomenal series, very enjoyable, and I've come to really love Dragon Ball Super. Before we go forward, I do want to mention that there are going to be spoilers here. If you haven't seen the series at all, if you're kind of behind in the series, I am going to be talking about the series at length. So if you haven't seen Dragon Ball Super, you may want to catch up on that before watching this video. So number 5 on my list is character development. One of the things that I love about Dragon Ball Super is that we get tons of character development in this series. For example, in this series, we do see the return of Future Trunks, which I really enjoyed. Future Trunks is awesome. This Future Trunks is now a very proud and strong man. He's someone that Vegeta is very proud to call his son. And that's a really interesting development because we remember back in Dragon Ball Z, well, Vegeta and Trunks didn't exactly get along that well. And yes, it's partly that Vegeta softened up, but Future Trunks has come back a very proud and strong adult, and he's a protector in his future, and he's definitely living up to his father's heritage, and I think that's something both him and Vegeta are really proud of. The other thing I love is it's not just some of the major characters like Vegeta, Trunks, of course Goku, but we actually get to see some of the characters who had fallen into the background. By this I mean like Krillin, Tien Shinhan, Yamcha, Yajirobe even makes an appearance, well, future Yajirobe. I think Krillin especially gets a lot of great character development in this series. We see how much Goku respects him, and even though we see fear in Krillin, we definitely get to see his kind of arc of overcoming that fear when he faces off against those people who killed him. Someone who we also get to see who's definitely been on the back burner, especially towards the end of Dragon Ball Z, is Piccolo. Although he doesn't have any super standout moments, he is again kind of a major character, and I really enjoy seeing him again. I love that we get to see Gohan and Piccolo. You see that their father-son relationship has really carried over into Gohan's adulthood. And speaking of Gohan, I personally don't think that him becoming a scholar is a bad thing. I really enjoyed that he's developed, that he's not limited to just being a fighter, that he's also a scholar and a great fighter. And in the Tournament of Power, we get to see how much Gohan's intelligence has really benefited him in the Tournament of Power. While Goku has great strength and great skill that he's always depended on, Gohan has more to draw for him, and by that I mean he has Piccolo's tutelage, he definitely has his knowledge from his educational studies, and I think he uses that a lot, and I really enjoy seeing Gohan as not just a scholar and a warrior, but also a family man. I'm really enjoying the elements of him as a parent. It's really awesome seeing Gohan, Pan, Videl. As much as people have complained about Gohan being weaker in the series, I personally have really enjoyed seeing Gohan in that father figure role and as a husband to Videl and a father to Pan, and that's just part of it. In this series alone, I think Super's done such a great job of bringing back the older characters that kind of got pushed to the side in Dragon Ball Z. I think Dragon Ball Super's done a great job of dusting them off and bringing them back. No, they're not going to be the powerhouses like Goku and Vegeta, at least for now, but for the sake of the saga of Dragon Ball overall, they are still very important and they are still very fun to see. And speaking of returning characters and character development, we also get to see the return of Tien Shinhan and Master Roshi. They're literally fighting alongside Goku and Vegeta. Powerhouses in their universe, they're fighting alongside them in the Tournament of Power, and it's great to see them return. We also get to see Android 17 and Android 18. We just get a ton of great character moments out of this series. Whether it's Goku and Android 17 teaming up, or Android 17 meeting Android 18 and Krillin stuff, daughter for the first time, or Piccolo and Gohan spending time together, or even Master Roshi overcoming his weakness towards beautiful women. There's just so much great character development in this series, and I personally think it's gone a long way to really do a lot of justice for the series, because one of my complaints about Dragon Ball Z was that they kind of pushed everybody else to the side if you weren't Goku or Vegeta. But in this series, they bring everybody back. Even if they're not the strongest characters, they do bring them back and they put them in the spotlight, and I really enjoy that a whole lot. Number 4 on my list are the story arcs in this series. So we recently passed the 100 episode mark in Dragon Ball Super, and what's awesome about that is within those 100 episodes, we've gotten a lot of different story arcs. I think we got the Battle of the Gods, the return of Frieza, the tournament battle between Universe 6 and Universe 7. We got the smaller arc of Goku versus Hit, the assassin. We got the baseball tournament episode. We got the pre-Universal Tournament of Power episodes. And now we're in the Tournament of Power. To me, that's a lot of story arcs. When you compare that with Dragon Ball Z, which had a lot more episodes, but I think they had a lot fewer sagas. And by that I mean there's a Saiyan saga, there's a Frieza saga, the Android saga, the Cell saga, and the Buu saga, I think. So that's about total of 5. Now correct me if I'm wrong, but I do think those are the major sagas that encompass Dragon Ball Z as a whole. But what's great about Dragon Ball Super is that we are getting so many mini story arcs that I'm really enjoying. And yes, they're still kind of the overarching larger story arcs, but for me these mini story arcs are a lot of fun, and I'm really enjoying them because they are building up to make Dragon Ball Super every bit as good as Dragon Ball Z, if not maybe better. And even now, I think Dragon Ball Super is embarking on its most ambitious story arc so far with the Universal Survival Tournament, because if you think about it, even in Dragon Ball Z, they didn't quite hit the scope of a universal threat. And I think Dragon Ball Super's done a great job of planting the seeds for future arcs. Yes, I'm somebody who thinks that there might be an issue with the Grand Priest, and maybe even Zeno might become the major threat, or Goku, who knows. But what's so cool about Dragon Ball Super is that we are getting so many story arcs, and it looks like they're just gonna keep going. I'm honestly not even sure where Dragon Ball Super can go next after this arc, but I do feel like they have a plan, and I honestly think that Dragon Ball Super may even run as long or even longer than Dragon Ball Z did, and I'm really excited about that. The number 3 entry in my list of best things about Dragon Ball Super is the comedy in this series. Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT, they've always been about comedy. Comedy is one of the major themes in any Dragon Ball series, and I really think that Dragon Ball Super knocks it out of the park when it comes to comedy. To me, it may be the funniest series of them all. Now, if you enjoy comedy in your action anime, Dragon Ball Super is not going to disappoint. What I really think is great about the writing team and the creative team behind Dragon Ball Super is that they do harken back to Dragon Ball Z and the previous series, and one of the funniest moments in the series is the episode where Universe 6 and Universe 7 has a baseball match. That episode is funny on so many levels, whether it's Vegeta and Kaba sitting next to each other kind of uncomfortably, or Yamcha hitting on Bulma, who's still married, or even Champa and Beerus getting into a fist fight. This episode was beyond hilarious, and the funniest part of this episode was whenever it harkens back to Dragon Ball Z. If you remember where Yamcha was killed by the Cybermen, Yamcha's kind of the butt of the joke in this whole episode, whether it's him and Vegeta kind of getting into a little bit, or whether it's Champa beating Yamcha, throwing a baseball at his back, and knocking him nearly unconscious. The funniest moment of all came whenever Champa and Beerus were fighting, and Yamcha was still on base. Well, Champa and Beerus nearly destroy the planet, but at the last moment you see that Yamcha managed to run home and win it for Universe 7, and he's in the same fetal position that he was in when the Cybermen killed him way back in the Saiyan saga of Dragon Ball Z. There's tons of hilarious moments like that, spanning all the way back from the beginning of Dragon Ball Super all the way to the current episodes in the Universal Survival arc. And I definitely credit the writers on this, because the Universal Survival arc is a really dark and bleak storyline, but they definitely managed to infuse it with a lot of hilarious moments. For example, in the newer episodes, whether it's Vegeta holding up Batama over his head and getting ready to throw him out of the ring only to be saved by Vegeta, or even when Android 17, instead of letting Ribrianne and her friends transform into their more powerful selves, Android 17 steps up and just blasts them. And then when Goku asks him about this, Android 17 just says there was an opening, which makes perfect sense, but in the context of this episode, it was just a lot of fun. And then you even see Topo run through and deliver a little bit of hilarious comedy, and he talks about how it's not justice for Android 17 to attack them while they're transforming, and then he just runs off back into the battle. It's little moments like these that make Dragon Ball Super so great, and for me, I honestly think Dragon Ball Super is the funniest of all the Dragon Ball series. You can let me know if you agree or disagree, but that's definitely my opinion. I really love the comedy in Dragon Ball Super. The number 2 entry on my top 5 list of things that make Dragon Ball Super great is the inclusion of so many new characters. So I already love Dragon Ball Super for bringing back so many older characters and putting them back in the spotlight, but Dragon Ball Super doesn't just do that. They throw in tons of new characters, and this series literally has universes full of new characters. Whether it's Lord Beerus, Champa, Vados, Whis, the Xenos, the Grand Priest, the other angels, the other gods of destruction, the Trio of Danger, Ribrianne, Jiren, Topo, and there are so many awesome new characters in this series, and I really love that the creators of Dragon Ball Super are going out of their way to expand the mythology of the Dragon Ball universe, bringing on these incredible new characters. Personally, my favorite new characters seem to come from Universe 6. I love how important Universe 6 is to this series, and I really hope they don't get erased. I love seeing Champa and his brother Beerus get into fights. I love seeing Hit and Goku. I think Kaba, Kale, Khalifa, I think they're very awesome. I really love Vegeta and Botamo. I just think overall Universe 6 is incredible, and I really hope Goku finds a way to save everybody. If not Goku, Vegeta or Gohan. I want them to step up, and I want them to save everybody. But Dragon Ball Super's not only done a great job of giving us new good guys and even new bad guys, what they've done that's really interesting is they've kind of created a gray area. Something Dragon Ball Super's done that I don't think any of the other series have done is they've introduced kind of gray characters. By gray characters, I mean there's usually heroes and there's usually villains. Gray characters are kind of in the middle, and they're not really good or evil. And characters like these, for example, would be the gods of destruction, Lord Zeno, the Grand Priest, even the angels. They're not really good or bad. Yes, the gods of destruction do exactly what their names and titles say they do. They destroy. But they're not exactly evil, even though they do destroy. On the other hand, the angels, when you think that they are angelic and good, well, these angels aren't really like that. They're just kind of like overseers. They're mostly, from what I observed, as neutral. Some of them have more character and seem to care a little bit more, and some of them are a little bit twisted. But overall, Dragon Ball Super has just done a fantastic job of bringing in so many new, incredible characters that really expand the mythos of the Dragon Ball universe. And if you didn't already have enough characters to love in the Dragon Ball Z universe, well, Dragon Ball Super gives you a whole series full of new characters that you're gonna fall in love with. And the number 1 entry on my top 5 list of things that make Dragon Ball Super so great is Vegeta. Let me start by saying, before Dragon Ball Super, Goku was my favorite character, as I think he is for many of you, probably still. But to Dragon Ball Super's credit, they did something that I'm even surprised they did. They made me switch from Goku being my favorite character to Vegeta. And rather than going into the specifics about why that happened in this video, what I'm gonna do is share with you why Vegeta has become such an incredible character thanks to the creative team on Dragon Ball Super. So in Dragon Ball Z, when we meet Vegeta, and for most of the series, all Vegeta does is lust over Goku's power and his abilities. But for me, what I love about Dragon Ball Super is that they not only turn Vegeta into a hero, but he also becomes Goku's equal and literally even surpasses Goku at points in the series. Yes, Goku is still supremely powerful, but Vegeta is either his equal or at times he's even passed up Goku on occasion. It's not just that Vegeta is on his level, we get tons of incredible character development with Vegeta in this series. Some of the best moments of the series are his interactions with Bulma. You get to see how much he really does care about Bulma. For me, that's a great part about the series. I especially loved when Vegeta became a new father and you got to see him interacting with the baby, and it was just hilarious. That was such a funny episode, and even though he's trying to hide it, you can tell he loves his daughter to death. Vegeta's come such a long way. The other moments I really love is when Vegeta, Goku, and Trunks go back to the future to fight Zamasu and Goku Black, and then you see Vegeta and Goku enter a room with the survivors of the future, and there's not many of them. Some of them are children, but there's just not very many people left. And you see that they're starving. You see that they're basically the last bastion of humanity there. And you know what Vegeta does? he takes out a capsule and he gives them a feast the likes they've probably never seen and never will see again. And when Goku comments about the good thing that he did, you know what Vegeta does? He doesn't even take credit for himself. He gives the credit to Bulma. It's just moments like that that show how far he's come from Dragon Ball Z all the way to Dragon Ball Super. And for me, as a character, he has literally surpassed Goku, and he is now my favorite character. And while some people might say he's lost kind of his fighting edge, no, I don't think that's true exactly. And it's been said throughout the series that he's actually stronger because he's become more of a hero. For example, like when you see him fighting Beerus, after Beerus hits Bulma, that puts Vegeta in a rage that I've never seen before, and he literally surpasses Goku, and he goes after Beerus, and he's able to put some hands on Beerus, and that's one of the best moments I've ever seen. The other really awesome moment is after Goku and Vegeta get their asses handed to them by Zamasu and Goku Black in the future, and they come back. Well, what does Vegeta do? He goes into the hyperbolic time chamber, and he literally blows up the time chamber. He's training that hard, and they kick Zamasu and Goku Black's asses. Vegeta has never stopped being a badass. It's just now in Dragon Ball Super, he realizes what he's fighting for, and he puts everything he has into it. And for me, that's the Vegeta that I think is living up to his full potential, and I'd love to see him keep going, and I actually want to see him become the strongest character in Dragon Ball Super. So that's it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it, let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you think are some of the best things about Dragon Ball Super. I love Dragon Ball Super. If you love Dragon Ball Super, let's talk about it, because I think it's a great series and I can't wait to see it keep going. I hope it goes for 700 episodes or more. And if you like this video, I have a ton of other videos. I'm going to keep making more videos. You can check them out if you want. You can subscribe if you want. You can like the video if you want. I really appreciate your support, and as always, thank you for watching.